Welcome back to Basics and Beyond. We're going to start the master's course in advertising, part one. Here's a guy trying to copy an old master in a museum. And the reason is, years ago, all art students used to spend a portion of their time copying the old masters in museums. Through this process, they learned technique, what worked and what didn't, and why more seasoned hands than theirs had done what they did. All great masters, whatever their fields, always know the basics, but they're great because they use these basics in new and exciting ways and ultimately go beyond them. So now you've got a sense for why I'm calling this course Back to Basics and Beyond. So I went to the Museo del Prado with my brother and sister-in-law and my wife, Sarah. We had an hour and 20 minutes to see it. So I said, we're only going to look at the paintings where there's an artist who's trying to copy the painting. And so we got through the museum, went to dinner, and then 2 months later, back from Italy, and I watched a PBS special on the Museo del Prado. I'd seen every masterpiece in the museum that they featured on the PBS special. So it's always a good idea to find out what people are copying, and if they're masters, copy them. So master number one in advertising, the father of modern advertising, Claude Hopkins. His book, Scientific Advertising, there's a section called My Life in Advertising. And this book is still read by internet entrepreneurs. He invented A/B testing. He tested headlines. He did all kinds of things that were way ahead of his time. And he says there is that technique in all art, science, and mechanics, and it is in all lines of basic essential. This is for groundwork only. To properly understand advertising, or to learn even its rudiments, one must start with the proper conception. Advertising is multiplied salesmanship. And he goes on, its principles are the principles of salesmanship. Success and failure in both lines are due to like causes. Thus, every advertising question should be answered by the salesman's standards. So advertising is multiplied salesmanship. Say that with me. Advertising is multiplied salesmanship. Then say it to your advertisers. And when you talk to your advertisers, talk about the fact that you're not just selling advertising, you're selling sales calls. You're not selling commercials, airtime spots, or digital. You're selling sales calls on your audience. You can say things like, look, you got 3 people in the showroom. We got thousands of people listening to us. We could be making sales calls on your behalf. Now, the reason that's important is because every business person knows they need to be making more sales calls. They may not want to advertise, but they need to be making more sales calls. No one ever says, you're making too many sales calls. All right. A story from my past, but one of the things that really informed me and helped me succeed. I'd gone to a seminar one time and they said, you should ask the people who advertise with you why they advertise instead of just advertising people who don't advertise why they didn't buy. And so I went into Rather Zimbrick Leasing. This is in Fitchburg, Wisconsin, the suburb of Madison. And I talked to Al Rather and I said, Al, you're a great customer of mine. And I wonder, why do you spend so much money on advertising? And he walks me down to the third cubicle in his office. He said, see this cubicle? I've tried to fill it 4 times. I paid people $35,000 to sit in there and try to sell leasing services for me. Every one of them turned over within a few months. He said, so now I take the $35,000 I used to spend on employees and put it on your stations. And that way, Dave and I get more incoming telephone calls. We don't have to make as many cold calls, and we're doing more business. And we're not paying somebody $35,000 to sit there and turn over. Now, I'm telling you that story, but I told that story to other people that I was trying to sell, that we're making sales calls on behalf of Al Rather. And he doesn't need a third salesperson because we're doing the job for him, and we don't take any time off, and we don't have any absenteeism. So advertising is multiplied salesmanship. And there's a story about Rather Zimbrick and how I got him to reveal that he was using advertising as a third salesperson. All right. I promised you in the last lesson, I'd introduce you to 3 advertising masters. That's David Ogilvy. We'll get to him, and Alvin Eickhoff tomorrow, or whenever you decide to click on the next lesson. You could do it right now if you want. Talk soon.